You are listening to the CADDle Call podcast. This is the place where computer-aided design and drafting meets humor and practicality, with a touch of business acumen thrown in for fun. Jim and Rocco, the owners of Zentaq Consultants, the premier U.S. technology consulting firm for architecture, engineering, construction, and manufacturing, discuss the fascinating world of CAD with some humor and some honesty. The CADDle Call podcast.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the CADDle Call podcast with Jim and Rocco from Zentaq Consultants. I am Jim, your talkative yet very tired and ready for vacation after this recording host, and with me as always is my partner,
the one who'll be here working while he's slaving away on his vacation.
There you go. At least he's finally doing something. It's the only time of year he has to work, folks, is when I'm not around. So, a couple of weeks a year, that's not such a bad deal, Rocco. But that's okay. I make him pay the price. You know how I make you pay the price, don't you? With the joke of the week, the engineering joke of the week. So here you go, Rocco. Here's your joke. Ready? So how do you tell the difference, right? Or what's the difference between an optimist, a pessimist, and an engineer?
No idea.
No idea. The optimist looks at the glass and he says, that glass is half full. And the pessimist says, that glass is half empty. And the engineer says, that glass is twice as big as it needs to be. So there you go. It's all about how engineers think some days, folks. All right. So today I want to talk about building information modeling, BIM, and Revit. And not really about, the software or how to use it, but how to configure both of those systems to your company needs. Look, BIM is a complex process that requires some detailed planning and setup to kind of get the output that both you and your clients need. All right, Revit, which is a great BIM tool, also adds the complexity of a very advanced 3D architectural, structural, MEP modeling system. And every aspect of the Autodesk Revit system can be tweaked and configured to meet the needs of almost anyone in the design world, right? The key, of course, is figuring out what those needs are, all right, and then setting it up in a consistent, simple to use manner that you can distribute across your whole firm, right? So listeners to the podcast, you guys have heard me harp on this statement 100 times before, right? That BIM and Revit are not the same thing, right? Even though Revit is one of the most common tools used for BIM creation, right? They're kind of, it's the difference between having, a stack of lumber and some hand tools versus a finished home, right? You use one to build the other, but they're not the same thing. In terms of BIM configuration and setup, it's really important, right? Particularly as more folks are starting to see the benefits of BIM and moving into using BIM for all of their work and not just the jobs where they're required to by contract. Those contract jobs will usually include a set of BIM standards that you'll have to meet, which is really helpful, right? But when you're working on your own projects, you're going to need your own set of fully developed BIM standards for the type of work that you do as a company. And now look, it's a common thing for folks to say to me, hey, Jim, I'll use the same BIM standard that I use for client A. And they think that they're all set. The problem is that, the systems that are being used under, contractual obligation, I guess, are very large, and they're usually meant to apply across a real broad spectrum of work for a lot of different consultants. In other words, they're probably overkill for what you guys are going to need. If you try to apply the BIM standard, right, from a municipal airport to your local, strip mall project, you're going to get bogged down, right? Probably even completely lost in adapting it to that type of work, and you're going to lose any benefit or profitability that a BIM setup might give you. So Rocco, with our clients in the design space, do we see a lot of those guys trying to adapt or outright use outside developed BIM standards, or do they come to us looking for help developing those to their specific needs?
Well, everybody's always looking to try to cut costs, right?
Aren't
So
they always?
I can't say that we're the first, stop on the road trip. I mean, uh, we're definitely probably their second choice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, that's understandable. I mean, like you said, everybody's looking to cut costs, keep things tight. But the reality on the BIM side, right, is that you want to take that complex system and make it as simple as you can. Whenever I run into people who are resistant to making that final push, right, to BIM on all of their projects, it's usually because it's perceived as being, just too difficult to work with on smaller jobs. And in almost every case, that complexity is based on people using BIM standards that don't really apply to a private company on a private job. Look, it is perfectly possible to develop and implement a BIM standard that gives you all the data that you want in a drafting and design methodology that actually will make you faster and more productive than working in a traditional 2D plan and specification type of process. Smaller jobs usually don't need to show, right, the same graphic level of development that a complex commercial project does. Right? And even the BIM data inside those, they can be simplified for your use. Right? So, instead of showing, the a window with, the jam type and the pane thicknesses and the mullion types and so on, you can have, a simple manufacturer call out for you. Hey, Anderson model type 5 or equal, right? Which makes life a lot easier. You can even provide links or hyperlinks to the appropriate specification and cut sheet and installation manual for those items automatically, right? Definitely a step up from standard 2D drafting. But having a separate BIM structure for private, smaller projects can also help you simplify some basic things like your schedules and your keynotes and your tags. It dramatically reduces the time to put those in. And you can even set your standards to show simplified, plan elevations and sections with, generic walls instead of showing, every layer of gypsum board and insulation and every screw in the wall. So Rocco, do you think that people, when you're having these conversations, do they understand the concept of having different BIM standards for different types of work? Or do they tend to look at it as a kind of a one size fits all, one standard for everything type of process?
No, I think they understand it. I mean, as like you said, as time has evolved and they've gone their hands more into BIM, I think that they've come to understand it more easily. It's not. I don't think it's easy to grasp from the beginning, but I think most people do understand it at this point.
That's good. Hey, people can learn, right? That's a good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, except for Rocco, he learns nothing. Um, Obviously, if he had learned, he worked with me for years before he became my partner. He learned nothing. That's not my fault. So on
Uh-huh.
on the BIM side, I guess, of today's conversation, right? What you really need to really look at here is what your end product deliverable should be, right? What are you trying to develop, right? Do you need to supply, information for, VDC or construction purposes, right? Or are you looking to provide data to the client so they have long-term facilities management options for the project? Or do you just need to have enough information in your BIM to order the parts that you need during the actual build, right? And that's going to vary a lot based on the firm and the project. And the best way to answer those questions is to develop written BIM standards for each type of project that you normally do, right? And to have separate predefined templates with varying degrees of detail and accuracy in your BIM development tool, right? Whether it's, Revit or BricsCAD BIM or whatever, so that, people can just go in and choose the appropriate template and go to work with the correct amount of data being generated automatically as they design. And in that concept, right, the actual written standard is there for two reasons, right? It's first, as an overview, right, that I think helps people decide, which template and which process to use on this job. And secondly, it works as a really nice checklist, right, to make sure that your end users have covered all the steps that you're going to need in that type of a BIM project, and go through the list and say, yep, we did all that, we're all good to go. So look, the templates that we're talking about here are going to lead us naturally to a discussion of Revit and similar tools. All right, so let's pause here so we can get in a word from today's sponsor. And then when we come back in the second half, we'll get into Revit templates and processes in the second half of the show. All right. So stand by, folks. We'll be back in just a minute. Excuse me. Wow. Can't even talk today.
A minute?
A minute.
It's
a minute. It's like a minute, but you actually won. So it's a minute. I have no clue. I'm just an idiot. I told you I needed a vacation. All right. Enough silliness. We'll be back in a minute with more of the CADDle Call podcast. All right, everybody. Today's CADDle Call podcast is being sponsored by Solid Space. That's Solid Space with a 3 instead of the E at the end. Solid Space is a QA/QC analysis and variance reporting solution. It compares your 2D and 3D design models to your construction site laser scans. And what it does is it will identify to within a 1/16 of an inch any construction errors or misplacements as they occur. We can generate the reports that you're going to need to see where you have flaws in the construction site within 12 hours, instead of waiting to find out about them months down the road when it's going to cost you 10 times as much to fix. All right, look, folks, a slight variation at the beginning of any job can cause countless delays and cost tens, even hundreds of thousands of dollars in rework over the life of a construction job, and Solid Space will help you avoid that. So, Rocco, why don't you tell folks how do they find out about Solid Space and how they can get working with us?
Yeah, you can actually hit up our website, of course, zentechconsultants.net. You can see sample variance reports there if you'd like to take a look. And reach out to us. We'd be happy to set up a demo. The demo's really not that long, and we can talk through any of your questions or concerns. So hit up our website, check out there's an awesome video that Jim did.
Always awesome when Jim does it.
Oh boy. So check out our website, give us a ring, 866-824-4459, or drop us an email, sales@zentechconsultants.net.
There you go. Solid Space, folks. Trust me when I tell you that this is the one system that everybody out there who's in the construction field, you need this one. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the CADDle Call podcast, where we're talking about configuring BIM and Revit to your own company's needs. And in this half of the podcast, I want to focus on the Revit side. The first place, I think, to start your configuration journey here is with your templates. Having predefined templates for different types of Revit work is far and away the easiest approach to maximizing your staff's time. Like we discussed in the first half of the show, right? And an overdeveloped standard can actually be a detriment to an efficient process. And that's doubly so in a template for a system like Revit. When you try to use a template, that's copied from another company or another project, it's almost always a case of overkill. When your template has, families of, 3,000 types of doors, right? When you generally only use 5 standard types, it's going to cause slowdowns, right? As people have to search for the right door, or even worse, they're just going to choose the wrong doors because there are just too many similar parts with minor differences. Look.
Silly question, but does it, when you say slowdowns, do you mean slowdowns in production, or do you mean slowdowns in how Revit actually performs, or both?
Yep, both. Yeah, absolutely. It's the people looking for that stuff have to spend additional time trying to find the right item, and then you've got all of these additional items that, when they're in a template, get pushed into every single Revit file. right? So you're going from, Revit files are huge to begin with, but putting these kind of data in here that you don't need, you're double and tripling what's already like an 80 gigabyte file. Yeah, both is the right answer there. So, look, for my listeners, right, I get the idea that, having a single template that addresses every possible design variation in one spot, it sounds efficient, right? And particularly to people who aren't doing that actual work on a daily basis, right? But believe me, it is the exact opposite. There is an exponential growth of errors with every additional family and or part assembly that you put into your templates. Revit templates, I think, are the ideal example of the need to use the KISS methodology, right? KASS, keep it simple, stupid. The simpler that it is to find the right item, the easier it is to use that and reduce errors. And this same concept, I think, bears out in every aspect of your Revit templates, right? From families to schedules to plan section views, callouts, everything. When there are only a handful of choices, you are going to get much more consistent results on every one of your design projects. So Rocco, right? We do a lot of Revit configuration work here at Zentaq, right? Is template cleanup and simplification a big part of that? Or do you see that folks still need convincing sometimes that simple is better?
Well, it's kind of a two-pronged question. I mean, we definitely help folks with the cleanup, and I think we do a good job of convincing people that, yeah, that's simpler is better. I mean, it just, with time. I mean, we've seen very, very messy environments, right? That's for sure. So, with time, it's like, you just have more and more and more and more. So just going through the exercise of cleaning up the house every now and then is good practice.
And I'm
So,
going to tell your wife you said that. That'll give you something to do this weekend. Clean up your
I don't like
house.
cleaning.
All right. Another big aspect, I think, of Revit configuration is maintaining a family database or library. And here's where you can really start to organize and build all of that detailed BIM data that you want to have at everybody's fingertips. In essence, you can build a series of really well organized folders, right, that contain hundreds of families and parts that all your users can access, but they're not maintained in your standard templates. Think of it like having, a library card, right? In your home, right? You only want to store the books that you're reading right now, right? But if you have that library card, you can go out to the library whenever you need to get a lot of very specific information. And that's kind of...
What percentage of people do you think know what a library card is?
Okay, shut up, right? So Rocco's giving me crap, right? And I know that libraries are obsolete in the modern web-based world, right? But I'm an old man, so I'm allowed to make reference to old-timey things, dude. Shut up.
A library card? You still have one in your wallet?
I probably do, actually. It would not surprise me. Again, like my Revit templates, I haven't cleaned these things out in 30 years, so who knows? There could be. I probably still have my library card to, my middle school in my back pocket. Who knows? But look, the great thing about developing this database is that it can, be network or cloud hosted, right, and maintained and updated by your best people. So it's always giving all your users the best information, the best symbology structure available, right? And in terms of use, the external database of families is easy to understand folders and consistent naming conventions that gives everybody access to the advanced parts at the level of detail they need for those unusual project requirements, right? So, you trust me, folks, it's a lot easier for everyone involved to go and find that one, odd window that needs to be included on this job by searching and importing from that external database into the current project than it is to just load thousands and thousands of parts into a template that's going to bog down the file and make everything, harder to find and work with. So yeah, Rocco, I recommend the database setup on all of our Revit configuration jobs. How do people tend to respond to that when you're talking to them? Do they like the idea? There's some still push for that single template model.
No, I think people have received it well. I mean, at the end of the day, there's a reason why they're coming to us, right? They're looking for our advice as to what we think is good and what we see is more effective for folks. So I think folks are receptive to it.
Yeah, and this is why we both work so much. We're married people. No one's usually asking us for our advice. We're just being told to shut up and sit down. So here, at least at work, people want to hear what we have to say. So that's a good thing. Look, a lot of the people that I talk to in terms of Revit configuration, right, during the day will tell me that they use online databases, right, like Library Revit or the National BIM Library. So they don't need to set up their own, internal database or library. And that can actually cause more headaches than just about anything else in the Revit world. When you download these items straight to a project, right, the BIM data, the format, the display properties are whatever the original creator chose, and they are never going to adhere to your company standards. And not only that, right, but because a lot of these items aren't that well described or defined online, your people wind up downloading, a dozen doors into the project before they get to the one that's, close enough to the one that they want to use. And this winds up leaving just a ton of garbage in a project, right? And that brings us right back to the very problems we're trying to solve with a standardized configuration, right? The answer here, I think, is to keep your own very clean company database, right? And not let people download, these Revit parts on the fly. It's much better to vet everything in advance, to make modifications and create, a standard for a new part. Right? I actually recommend having those database folders that we're talking about locked down as read only for everybody in your company, except for, your BIM, VDC, CAD manager, right? Whoever's responsible for maintaining that, so that people in general can't do any additions or edits, right, of the company standard library. The ideal process, right, is, to go and search there in your company database for what you need first. That should be everybody's starting point. And if what they need is not available, then they can go and they can download the part from an online source, but they have to give it to that, BIM, VDC, CAD manager who is in charge of the database to clean it up, standardize it, and then import it into the library before they can use it on their project. So Rocco, right? All of this is really the type of setup and configuration for both BIM and Revit that we work on all the time. Right? So let's throw in a little plug for ourselves here today. Where do people go on our website specifically to get an idea of what services we do in the BIM Revit arena?
There's a services section right on our website at zentacconsultants.net, and you'll want to check out our BIM services. But it's they're broken out there. But what we often say is we have to have a discussion. It's not a clear-cut picture where it's it's going to cost $2,000. Every customer has a unique situation. Absolutely. And unique need. So we really need to sit down and have a discussion with you guys and help you understand what your options are. And the other important thing is that not everything has to be done all at once, right? I mean, everybody's got a limited budget. So when we put together statements of work, we do break it out into options for customers. So, you visit our website, the info is there, but it could be overwhelming as to, okay, what does this all mean? What is it going to cost? So it comes down to discussion after discussion after discussion in a lot of these situations.
Hey, talking to human beings, who knew that could be a good thing? So look, folks,
Yeah.
yeah. At the end of the day, what we're trying to do with a solid configuration of these design systems is to prevent dumb mistakes that make us look incompetent or worse, cause mistakes and cost overruns. Yeah, look, I know everybody out there. Have you guys ever looked at a construction document where, one door has, the jamb and the sweeps and the handle and the trim and even the hinges shown graphically on the door, and then the one right next to it shows the jamb as a rectangle. That's it. Okay. How about, generating a simple schedule, right? And one door type shows the make, the model, the finish, and down to like the thread count of every single screw and bolt. While the one below it says, door, wood, and that's all it says. That's the kind of thing that loses you projects, and it permanently damages your professional reputation when builders see that. So, trust me when I say you can't go wrong investing time and money and effort into your Revit and BIM configurations. Right? It's not just about helping out the poor drafter designer, which it will, but it's really about keeping your company relevant and competitive. So, all right, with that, folks, we are going to get out of here, and we will catch you next time on the CADDle Call podcast.
All right, everybody, today's CADDle Call was brought to you courtesy of Zentaq Consultants. That's Rocco and I. Zentaq Consultants works with design and manufacturing firms to help our clients purchase and implement the software that they need in these complex industries. We provide a single point of contact for clients to buy, develop, and learn the most vital software systems for your specific needs. Zentaq strives to be your trusted technology partner from your initial needs all the way through long-term support and training for your entire staff. So Rocco, why don't you tell them how to reach out to Zentaq?
All right, yeah, you can reach out to us through zentechconsultants.net. You can email us at sales@zentechconsultants.net, or you can even call us, 866-824-4459.
Excellent. We look forward to hearing from you all.